Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rails Local Time and Time Zone series. If you haven't watched the first episode of how to display a posted at date time with local time gem, take a look at the 5 minutes video I posted yesterday. In this second episode, we'll talk about how to pre-populate a time select in the user's local time. For those who haven't watched the first video, let's take a look at the problem we are gonna solve. Let's go to this simple Rails post form. Notice here is the hour. It's now 11 o'clock, but our system time is 19 o'clock. The difference here comes from time zone. In our Rails app, the default time zone is UTC plus 0, but my system time zone is UTC plus 8. If you add 8 to this 11, you get 19, which is the hour of my system time. So how can we display 19 instead of 11? The simplest approach is to set a default Rails time zone in config application.rb. Let's have a try. Let's set the Rails default time zone to Asia, Shanghai, which is my time zone. And restart the Rails server. Okay. Then we refresh the page. Okay, the hour has changed. It's now the same as my system time. This is a good approach if you are providing an app to, say, a internal service, maybe in your company, or only serve a single city or country across which the watch time is the same for everybody. But once you need to provide your service to people from all over the world, this would not work because you can't set a default Rails time zone for each user's request. To solve this problem, we first need to know each user's time zone, then we can set the time zone around each request accordingly. There are several ways to know a user's time zone. Maybe we can use JS, but my preferred approach is to let the user set their own time zone. I've seen this time zone setting on Nintendo's website, or Google Calendar, and some other major websites. So let's do this. Before we continue, let's set the Rails default time zone back to UTC so it doesn't interfere with our solutions. Just comment out the default time zone setting in the application.rb. I've already set up a user model in this app with device gem's default settings. If you are using a different user authentication gem or rolling your own user model, the approach is almost the same. So let's now add a time zone attribute to our user model. First, we need to add a migration to our database, RailsG migration, add time zone to users, add a time zone of a type string and RailsDB migrate. And we need to set our user's device controller to permit the time zone field. Let's go to application controller and add a time zone to our device parameter. And then to let users select their time zone, we also need to add the time zone field to our form. Let's go to device registration, new view, and add the time zone select here. And we also need to change this one to a time zone select. Then we'll copy this one to the edit form. Okay. Reformat. Okay. Refresh the page. Oops, it's not working. I forgot to save. Okay, now it works. You can select a time zone here. Let's sign up a user first. We'll use my username, printfin, and use an imaginary email and password. Set the time zone to UTC plus 8, which is my time zone. Okay. Now we have a first user. So let's go back to our time select form problem. How can we pre-populate a time select default value based on the user's time zone? Before we make any change, let's take a look at our new post form. As you can see, the hour is still in UTC time zone because my system time is 19. It has a 8-hour time difference with the form, which is 11. Okay, let's continue solving the problem. Rails actually gives us a convenient setting, which is time.useZone. It overrides time.zone locally inside a supplied block, and after block is executed, it resets the time.zone to existing value. So let's set our app to use the user's time zone around each action. Let's go to application controller and add a private method here. Def set time zone. Okay, time.use zone. Current user dot time zone and yield. We should invoke this method around each action only when the current user method responds. Okay, around action, set time zone if current user. Okay, let's have a try. Let's go back to our post form and let's refresh the page. Look, it's now 19. It's the same as my system time. We can also create a third post. Okay, see, the time is still correct. We can edit it and it's still correct. We can also change our time zone to a different one, maybe 1 hour earlier to Tokyo, it's UTC plus 9. And go back to our new post. Look, it's 20 now. It's 1 hour earlier, UTC plus 9 instead of UTC plus 8. Which means our Rails controller is honoring our user's time zone settings. So that's it. Now we can pre-populate a datetime select form with the user's local time so that the user doesn't have to manually change it himself. That's pretty cool, right? If you learned something from my video, you can also teach it to others. Thanks for watching. See you next time.